The Eastern Clash is nearing a conclusion as we have our final three teams, and they are all Korean. Tempest, MVP Black, and L5 will be competing to walk away with the championship here in the Eastern Clash. Luckily for us, we have the Korean encyclopedia himself, Wolf, to hang out in this matchup.
You know, to be honest, going to this event, most people were expecting a top 3 Korea going into the losers finals as well. But with Tempest really underperforming yesterday against Super Perfect Team, most people were expecting E-Star to actually end up coming out on top in that series. Wasn't to be the case. In fact, it was an insanely one-sided series in which Tempest advanced to that grand finals, which leaves us at 14-2 for Korean versus non-Korean teams in this tournament. E-Star, the only team to take 2 maps off of MVP Black. And so I feel like I gotta take this and put this right here. There we have it. It's feels more like the Korean Clash and some Eastern show matches with how dominant the Koreans have been. You know, the match with E-Star, of course, taking those 2 games off MVP Black, plus the fact that Tempest performed so poorly against Super Perfect Team, made everyone, almost everyone in this building, everyone, of course, online saying, okay, we're going to have a Chinese team potentially in this finals. They could make it happen. They nearly defeated Black. Black then defeated L5. Maybe we have China in the finals. It's a Chinese tournament. You know, we're in China. But unfortunately,
No.
well, not unfortunately for me, of course, but for everyone else, we end up with the top 3 Korean teams.
How happy are you, Wolf? Come on, give us some happiness here. I know you being a representative, obviously you're casting Korean. You got to be happy for him.
I have to admit, you know, I was a little bit worried going into this tournament when Tempest played really poorly against Super Perfect Team, but today they really showed up. They played a lot better. Their drafting was better. They stuck to their style. And their team fighting, I think, was massively improved, plus their coordination. So I don't think this is going to be an upset here where we see Tempest advance to the grand finals, but it is certainly possible. You know, there were whisperings maybe Tempest does the unthinkable here and actually advances the grand finals at the beginning of this tournament. They looked weak yesterday, but maybe, I mean, anything could happen. We've had upsets in this tournament already.
We'll see what Tempest does. We'll be going to Cursed Hollow for our first battleground, but it's good to see them actually show up here. Obviously, all 3 of these teams have been champions in their past. They've all had wonderful runs in their history of playing in competitive Heroes of the Storm. L5 at BlizzCon 2016, Tempest at 2016 Summer Worlds, and of course MVP Black at 2016 Spring Worlds. Now, let's talk about this matchup, L5 versus Tempest. Now, as you mentioned, probably not going to be an upset, and because of history, we can come to that conclusion. Right now, Tempest is only 1-6 against L5.
That's right. They did take that 1 map on Dragonshire back in HGC Korea. We talked about this when I was casting the previous set, in which L5 did win 3-0 against Tempest yesterday. Gilly and I were talking about how the late game play of Tempest, their late game team fighting where they get wipes and end up winning the game in that supreme massive late game is where they're strong. Their global presence with their global priority is strong. We saw that on Dragonshire against E-Star, and I think that's what we're going to be looking at going to these maps. Now, Cursed Hall is not as long of a map as Dragonshire as we go into game number 1 here, but it is a map where they prioritize those globals very highly, and we'll see ETC ban right away. This is a Tyrael bait, I feel, with this first ETC ban. With Tastar removed, Tastar has a 100% involvement in this tournament. Tastar removed, I think we're just going to see the Tyrael insta-locked, and L5 knows what's up. They take it here, and you know, their first 2 wins against Black in that previous set actually were with those Tyraels.
Wow, and we're going to see Tempest go down the route that we saw for MVP Black earlier, grabbing the Abathur. Now, instead of getting the Malfurion, we have the Ragnaros here instead. So a bit of adjustment from Tempest, but Abathur, the Koreans really seem to be on this train when it comes to Cursed Hollow.
Definitely so, and looks like L5, rather than grabbing up the Gray Mane here, as we've seen actually Tempest do in the past with this early Tyrael, will be going down the unkillable solo DPS Vala, which is why Ariel is removed here by Tempest. The Murden going to be insta-locked here in this very quick and speedy draft by L5. And this is somewhat of a warrior choke here.
Yeah, we actually haven't seen much variety or a Murden being banned here, so L5 obviously doing the warrior choke. The next option from here, what do you think even gets grabbed? You have your Nubrak available, you have your Diablo available, and Nubrak doesn't work so well right now. I actually wouldn't mind seeing a support and maybe another damage for Tempest, because the warrior's been choked out so much that you come to a point where it's like, all right, well, we can make an adjustment based on what our opponent drafts.
Yeah, I mean, we used to see a lot of Varian paired with the Ragnaros in HGC Korea, but with the nerf that he received on this current tournament patch, he's just not really a viable choice. We saw eStar actually target ban Diablo against Tempest, which I thought was really interesting earlier on. And perhaps they know something we don't know here about that Diablo ban. It's going to be Chen instead, though, coming out with the Kharazim. And this leaves a big question mark as to which last pick here Tempest is going to have in terms of DPS. You could point towards the Greymane, but it's going to be tough to actually pull that off with really the only solo support with Kharazim plus the symbiotes that Abathur can give. But still, this feels like really pigeonholed here into this last damage on this huge map, and Abathur being the only global.
Yeah, it is going to be kind of awkward because you have a draft composition that requires a bit of a dive, with Sulfur's Smash potentially being the ender there. So you have your Greymane, you have the Illidan being a possibility. But if Greymane were to get picked up here by L5, which is entirely possible, they're going to go for Dahaka and Lucio instead. So I think it is a Greymane that you move into. There is also the option of Lunara, but that one feels a bit awkward in this composition in terms of her trying to poke, trying to dance back and forth, while at the same time everyone else is trying to get into the back line, that Chen and the Kharazim. So I think Greymane is definitely the choice.
Whoa!
Medivh!
This is essentially a no range damage composition. The Medivh can give some range damage, and of course the Master's Touch that can boost up quite a bit. This is an insanely unique, rare, and unusual draft. I mean, we are missing a ranged assassin here. I mean, let me double check. Yeah, I'm like Abathur, no. Ragnaros, okay. Like not. I mean, sometimes Sake plays him, but doesn't make him a ranged assassin. Chen, no. Could throw a lot of barrels. That's not enough consistent damage. You got the Kharazim as a support, and Medivh is protecting. I guess we're going to see some Chen aggression here with the symbiotes. I mean, I just don't feel like this is enough damage. And how are they ever going to kill Vala here? That's the big question. They've got Tyrael against them as well.
Well, you have aggressive portals available too, but yes, we have seen Medivh from our Tempest in the past, even L5 to a degree, but it's normally with a Greymane or someone that can dive in and get aggressive and bring in those plays, even on Illidan to a degree. This almost feels sort of ADRD-ish in terms of drafting from the European scene, but Medivh can allow for Chen, Kharazim, and Ragnaros to get in the back line, and Ragnaros, if he can get on top of a target, he does chunk targets, in particular Vala here, who has Zarya shields, but you can get through that. And then Kharazim, if he gets a few punches and he's good to go, most of the time the problem is once you use all your abilities for actual hard engage, you have no escape. Medivh gives that. But it is awkward. I don't know how this is going to completely work against him, especially with Lucio doing all the dancing around the portals.
Yeah, I just feel like the issue here really is going to be that Vala is going to eventually out-sustain this composition that Medivh. Usually, when you see him as a support here, it's when you're missing some of the other supports like Tastar, for example, or Zarya that empower one strong melee or one strong range in the case of like a Vala or a Lunara or even sometimes a Raynor. When you look at this composition with the shielding coming up from Medivh, it's not going to protect against Vala's sustained slow damage. It can only protect for a little while. And I mean, realistically, I just think there's too much shielding. You've got Tyrael, you've got Zarya. How are you really going to break through this? I just don't think it's going to happen. This damage is slow. Lucio has Amp It Up. He's going to keep everybody healed.
I think the other approach for this draft that Tempest can take and run with is you just put the entire game on Abathur's back. You say, all right, let's get you to do full split pushing. Dahaka is available, but you can bait out Dahaka on the brush stock by forcing him Medivh engage. And then the moment Dahaka does brush stock, you make Medivh and the rest of the team just disappear from the fight. And then Abathur gets aggressive on a split pushing. It's a long shot, but it's one that you could go for.
I think that's the only shot they've really got. Let's take a look at who's on whom here. Noblesse will be on Tyrael. SC's on the Vala, his best hero by far. Nitrogen pulling out that Zarya. We're going to have Junga on Dahaka and Swoy, of course, here on the Lucio. So it's up to SC to take that support, do that consistent damage, and carry here. And in terms of what we know and understand traditionally about Heroes of the Storm, this is the solid draft. This draft is meta. There's not a weird thing about it. I mean, it's just straight up and standard.
To the right side, the other draft that isn't so standard, of course, with Tempest. We're going to be having the Abathur being played by Lockdown in the top left, which is interesting to see. Normally we see him on the most aggressive heroes, getting in the middle of the fight, setting up stuff for his team, but that will not be the case here, as we're going to be having Sign on Chen. Now, we've seen Sign on Chen way in the past, and it was pretty impressive. We're going to see how they can get their damage to actually get those fights to happen. One more thing that can be a major crutch in fights, or at least an advantage for Tempest, is that Leyline Seal. If you do get a 3-4 engage and you put all your targets onto one member, sure, you can get that 5v4 despite having low amounts of damage. We'll see how it shapes out on Cursed Hollow Best of 5 series. This is the losers finals. L5 taking on Tempest. Into Cursed Hollow we go on the left side. In the blue, it will be L5 taking on the red team, Tempest. Who do we have on L5?
Well, we've got SC on the Vala, of course, Nitrogen on Zarya, Junga on Dahaka, Soy on Lucio, and over here, I'm going to give it over to you, I suppose.
Red Modern Life Ragnaros, Duck on Medivh. Lockdown will be shown up here as well. Sign on the Chen, and Hyde will be on Karazim. So I'm ready for this to unfold. One thing I do want to mention to you, Wolf, is that for the first time in months, we have seen L5 lose a series. This is a moment where we see them bounce back if they get the opportunity, and it couldn't be against a better opposition that they've already beaten so much in the past. So I'm ready to see how L5 handles a loss they've had earlier in the tournament. Yeah,
that's really what this is going to come down to here, as Tempest, of course, is going to have to step it up. And, you know, Korean teams are the best in the world for a reason, Trixler. They learn how they think the meta goes. They take that type of drafting and playstyle, perfect it, train together, very rarely swap rosters, and they just use that to win in macro games and longer games, and they play well thought out standard games in general. What we see from Tempest, on the other hand, is almost the opposite of this. You see essentially this, what must be a cheese strategy that we're going to watch evolve as this game goes on, because it's just simply something we never see, a, you know, quote unquote, a ranged assassinless composition.
I am kind of curious not to see Survival Instinct at level 1. I was really hoping for some split push out of there just because of the long shot that we talked about earlier in the drafting phase. The level 1 kind of is not indicative of that, but level 13 and 16 we can still have the Locust pickups. Those are just more mid to late game oriented compared to the Mines build, which is obviously all about controlling the map.
Certainly. So I mean, look, again, it's just, we have theories, right? We can try to figure out as this game goes on what is going to happen. I expected the split push, at least from the beginning here as well. Not going to be the case, and one of the problems, of course, with the early game with this comp for Tempest 2 is that Zarya is just so good at hard pushing the lane at level 1. You build up this mass energy and you push the lane. We saw, you know, L5 when they were using the name Ballistics at the Gold Club World Championship, using this very, very well actually against MVP Miracle, and it's working out really well here already at level 1 against Tempest. You can see them take already about 3/4 of a level lead, and they've taken down this top wall. There's just simply put right now nothing Tempest can do about this. You saw Chen actually, you know, with Symbiote actually win the mid lane, but it's just not as significant as what L5's been able to accomplish here on the top. And you can see that on the minimap, Tyrael was forced to back, and they are going to start to do sandwiches. But compare the damage done to this wall to the top wall. It's, I mean, there's no comparison here.
Yeah, it's nothing. This is just the fault of what an Avatar does. You just don't have that body. You just kind of are, unfortunately, in a bad spot all the way to level 9. I would love for these Giants to be grabbed, and then L5 rotate those 3 core into the middle lane. Granted, we're going to be having a curse relatively soon, but putting more pressure onto more turrets gets you more experience and nets you in a great spot. Now, luckily for Tempest, the Tribute will be spawning in the top right, which means they should get some breathing room if they can poke down this Tribute for a long time. But in all honesty, their poke is kind of lackluster. You have your wonderful ability with Ragnaros, your W can clear for a little bit, and you have Medivh that can harass at the same time. But portals are going to be aggressive, and if you have an aggressive portal, there is a chance for L5 to make a play.
Duck's not even in position here to do any poking where they're going to force the Molten Core here. SC actually getting fairly low. Soy going to amp it up to allow him to escape in speed boost mode. As they are just going to wait out the Molten Core. Meanwhile, Dahaka is getting a lot of push in the bot lane. He can brush stock up at any time. And this Molten Core, essentially, yes, it bought time, but it didn't accomplish anything at the end of the day, as they're unable to take this Tribute, and they're unable to find much extra soak, just kind of staying even down there in the bottom lane with Abathur. And as you can see, L5 is just going to keep pushing this lane. Sign, you know, he accomplishes a little bit here now, rotating into the mid lane. And as long as L5 can take this fairly soon, it's going to be a big win for them. They're already taking a whole level lead now. And Soy's going to go ahead and channel. Sign coming in with that protection here. Soy actually stops channeling. And Hyde comes all the way in. So they are buying a lot of time here.
Yeah, when you think about it, there actually isn't much for them to stop Chen drinking except for the boop on Lucio here. So actually, Sign can be pretty aggressive, especially with the Avatar hat. He's going to start drinking up, getting focused down here from SC in particular. Duck on the back right does bring in the damage. We'll have a portal up relatively soon, so they are buying a massive amount of time. The problem is you're not getting too much out of it because of Dahaka being in the bottom lane. The experience that they have gotten is in the middle from Sign's push with the help of Abathur.
I mean, certainly he can tank this a lot, but Jungla's getting so much push done that the longer this goes on, it feels like arguably if Sign's not pushing mid, this is a better situation for L5. Not to mention that this has a timer to it. Yes, it's a very long timer, but eventually L5 will win out. They have the better sustain. They don't have to use mana to damage Signs. They just sit here and push him down. Now we're going to see a commitment here onto Swoy. Just simply amps it up to escape again, and we'll get out of harm's way. Again, that bot push really, really strong here. And you really have to wonder what the plan is going to be. DuckDuck's actually get a channel here, gets delayed. And, you know, if they take this, it would be huge. But Abathur actually goes down in bot with a symbiote active there. And this might actually cost him the bot fort eventually. It's absolutely going to cost him this tribute. Oh, boy, this is messy. Here we go, Trixler. I don't know. I mean, I was feeling like we were going to see something we've never seen before. I was feeling like we were going to learn something beautiful, and the world was going to be changed. But so far, I guess we just still have to wait, as this has not been successful.
Yeah, patience for us, patience for Tempest as well. Unfortunately, Abathur behind that forward wall, getting picked off by Jungha as he moves in, grabs a drag, works on those auto attacks, and takes him off the field. And L5 has squeezed out almost a 2-level lead. Now, it's only 1 level for the moment, but they are so close to level 10. They're now pushing in this middle lane. That 3-man squad we saw in the top lane now moves on to other infrastructure.
You wouldn't think this wouldn't be so difficult to, you know, kind of maintain an even EXP lead with an Abathur on a map like this. You know, if you had, for example, not a Zarya against you, a Dahaka against you, a Tyrael for minion shields against you, Bala's wave clear against you. But unfortunately, as it turns out, it's just not enough. And Heroics are going to be online here first for L5, so they can force that tribute fight easily in their favor here. It is spawning on red side, so that's at least one boon that Tempest has going for them here. But once they get this, they will be on Curse Point. Tempest is going to have to try to soak for 10 to defend that 3rd tribute once it spawns. It would be essentially a miracle down these Heroics to take this 2nd tribute for Tempest.
Yeah, that is the good news. They delayed the 1st tribute for so long that they will have a chance to fight for that 3rd tribute. But L5 is in a spot to make a boss play here. They've also gotten a fort almost destroying the bottom lane, which requires one of Tempest's members to rotate down and defend that lane. And that means L5 can take a boss. They start to do so in the top right. DuckDuck is working in a few of his arcane missiles here whenever he gets the chance. And here comes High at the same time rotating in. They can deter away the moment, especially with that Molten Core being popped up. Okay, SC is getting focused down, so Tempest does have tools to defend, obviously. I forgot about that Molten Core being so powerful there.
Yeah, you know, it's been off cooldown for a while there, but looks like Tempest kind of wanted to bait a fight there in their favor, but now they don't have Heroics still. They're so close. They really want that leyline seal. No, DuckDuck's positioning here. He's definitely going to look for it. There it is. It's a 3-man. They don't have Molten Core. Oh, great sync coming down, as well as the sound barrier. Now Tempest needs to get out if they can.
They do with the portal. Modern Light will be able to retreat, lock down the back left. The fake Chen for now, attempting to help out with the attack. Going to be moving into the fort is L5. Tempest has a pretty solid defense around the area, but L5 handled the major flash in the plan that Tempest would normally have, which was that Sulfurous Smash. If SC does not fall with that combo, they can just continue to work in auto attacks and get heals from Lucio.
Yeah, and you know, when you just ignore the clone and eventually deal with it, you know, that's essentially a 5v4 that you're fighting. There's no range damage on the sides of Tempest after that. You see a big portal attempt here to try to catch a low SC, but killing him is so difficult, as we talked about in the draft. And I wonder if Tempest will ever be able to secure a kill on one of the world's best Balas, many consider to be the world's best Bala, going into this game, as it just doesn't feel likely. You know, it feels like this Leyline Seal combo would be a lot stronger if they had Molten Core available at the same time, or if they were to get a big stun. It almost feels like Western Clash highlight inspired Trixler when you watch it. I know you've got some personal experience with that. But so far, so good for L5. It's not a massive lead in terms of EXP, obviously, and there's a little bit of split push that we didn't talk about too much going down here in bot. Tempest did secure that 3rd tribute. It's not all bad for Tempest. But again, it feels like the theme is we're still waiting to see how well this is going to work out. The Leyline Seal so far been good. The split pushing was solid there with that Merc camp, but L5 absolutely has the better fighting composition.
So the wheels are turning a little bit for me when it comes to Tempest. What if their draft is just completely intended not to allow Tyrael to have a moment where he can dive into a back line and finish off an assassin, because no assassin exists?
I mean, you know, it's one of those thought-provoking moments, right? And Serial's going to have to use a Sanctification to dodge these combos if L5 positions incorrectly and gets Leyline sealed again. You've got to be really careful and split against that. When DuckDuck is in Raven form, flying right on top of you, you absolutely have to be looking for that. Okay, here we go. The double Chen coming in, big stuns, and a sound barrier coming up.
There we are, the explosions on the back life. Lockdown's diving in. Sign is going to be using the Water Force Elemental here. Jumping speed on Sanification come out, but not before SC falls. The aggression continues. Leyline Seal, Sway on the back left is being focused down. The Molten Core helping out in the engage. Now Ragnaros can join. He does not have Superior Smashes. He used it earlier for the fight, but this is a 5v4 with the aid of Abathur Hat. Sign, there's no way to kill him here. Even Zarya stepping up to help out with the attack, but these shields are too much.
Oh man, Noblesse is going to be kicking himself for this one, just barely missing that Sanctification in time. This is going to be 3 kills for Tempest. SC, had he survived there, this would have been a totally different story. You see Master's Touch completed very early on here as well with all the poke we've been seeing from DuckDuck. It's a hero who's been running a little bit more often recently, in HGC Korea, and he has this completed very early, was playing very carefully, but also still maintaining that poke. If the Sanctification goes down, you have a completely different fight there, but it was just mistimed. Noblesse was then out of mana, and perhaps he actually just didn't have enough mana to click it in time. We'll never know, at this stage, they have to look back and check, but either way, he didn't hit it in time. SC dies, and that's all damage removed. And then not only is it tough for L5 to escape, but also Tempest has massive chasing power with those portals.
The more I think about it, though, the more this composition from Tempest just screams, you better protect your Vala. We're coming straight for her. That prevents Tyrael from being completely too aggressive. Zarya has to sit in the back line. I wish he would have gotten Feel the Heat. I feel like Feel the Heat would have helped out so much with this composition that's obviously designed to die the Vala constantly. It's Lucio and SCSC that are the only targets. Everyone else is being ignored here by Tempest as they know they need to break this composition apart. So Fierce Mush comes out. It will not connect as SCSC will sidestep it. Big sound barrier at the same time. Leyline Seal, DuckDuck's going to disappear here with the portal.
Yeah, he had his portal on cooldown there, so he couldn't actually use the escape there. Had to use Leyline to get out, which is really unfortunate. He does have his Master's Touch, of course, which is really important, so he's not going to worry about his deaths too much, but did want to escape. Now they're going to try to potentially re-engage here. The problem is Lockdown's clone has already expired, and they're going to try to take this tribute fight during this small window before he can use it again. Don't forget, Leyline Seal was also used. L5 knows this. They don't have Sound Barrier, but they do have Expulsion Zone.
SCSC once again taking the brute force of a panda as Sign will jump in. Sway on the back left, bringing out the heals. Zhangwa is forced to retreat into the portal to make sure they can defend with the drag. Now with the portal expiring, L5 moves forward with positioning. Storm Breath and Fire has been popped, and here goes Sign.
All right, they're looking to go in here again onto the squishies in the back. Sign here actually will have to retreat. Sanctification is used really well this time, and you can see how things could go wrong in this case. The Storm Earth and Fire has already expired. Big silence going off here, but look at the protection that DuckDuck provides. It's just so difficult to kill this Chen here. Smash goes off onto Noblesse, but Sign will go down. Noblesse may trade for it here. Actually, he will not, as Hyde is killed. There's the kill to DuckDuck. Modern Life and Lockdown's clone expires, making this essentially a wipe. Tempest does have this split push in the bot lane once again here, but the curse obviously is going to be much more significant. It's going to be very difficult to defend this plus boss, which is what L5 is going to jump onto right away. Not to mention the fact that with all these death timers still spinning, all the lanes are going to be pushed, with the exception, of course, of that bot.
Solid fight by Tempest. I think the follow-up was a little bit lackluster. I think you start that boss, get it burned down to half health, then grab the tribute, get the curse, and push everything together so you can make sure that you're setting yourself up to have a boss on the keep while you have a curse. But regardless, they still get the advantage. They got the reward of the curse for themselves. They can start moving towards that keep while the Haka defends the bottom lane. So L5 just intending to open up this map and not really move into an aggressive play. They're just pushing in this middle fort, and then they can make it a play maybe onto the keep wall in the middle. But L5 right now feeling confident after that engagement.
Sure, and they did sacrifice a lot of EXP soak with this as well. They spent a lot of that early curse time on the boss, but because Dahaka has all this free soak bot, it's not going to be the end of the world for them. In fact, there's still a level lead ahead. They did damage that keep quite significantly to get the second keep wall here in mid. And the bot keep, even though it was threatened by the Siege Giants, is still very much safe here. So L5 is going to have this super early structure advantage. They didn't secure a keep. Had they done so, would have been a more significant advantage. But either way, they have to still be wary of the fact that Tempest is one tribute away from that curse, and they do have Abathur. They've got a lot of pressure they can put on if they lose the next fight. And the game in terms of EXP is still just one level, maybe 1.2 levels ahead for L5. As we now posture actually a little bit around the boss. DuckDuck coming in here very aggressively. There's no follow-up though. Just doing a little bit of scouting, just making sure L5 isn't taking their own boss, it looks like here, as they move to split and soak lanes.
Yeah, that's one of the biggest points that L5 could be doing to potentially toss the game, if you will, is if there was a boss being focused down. So Tempest is making sure to check their boxes to make sure they're not grabbing that boss. Tempest at the same time is just working on getting their wave spread out so they can actually have Avather be more effective instead of him just sitting in base. I still kind of criticize how that curse was handled by L5. I know the plan for them was to optimize soaking. They soaked the middle lane and the bottom lane with their Dahaka, but I really felt like they could have moved in and grabbed a keep on that top right, which would have been great for them. Catapult pressure in this moment would have opened them up to potentially get to a spot where they can handle that boss if, for instance, Ragnaros would go up there to clear.
Yeah, the boss is like a really big empowering tool that Tempest would they be able to use to get a curse, because they are on curse points. It's just gonna be so difficult and almost impossible to imagine that they can actually steal that. But I like that Duck is constantly wary of this and checking it, because that kind of removes all objectives from them. This next tribute spawn is going to be really important, of course, as well, as we're going to see this attempt to come in here onto SC, but look at the shields coming down already. He is actually taking quite a bit of damage. They're actually forced to use Sound Barrier as this fight begins.
I do like how Tempest does retreat to the left side, though. They popped the Molten Core slightly too early, in my opinion, but still, they're going to have some attacks fling their way here as Ragnaros will continue to work in the damage. Sign poking on the side with Storm, Earth, and Fire. Hyde, though, getting low on health, will be forced to use a bomb on himself. Signification at the same time into a lane line seal, and Ragnaros continues to shell away, but the majority of the burst damage, or this all-in damage from Tempest, has already fallen. There is Sulfura Smash, does not connect. Zhangha will go ahead and burrow. Hyde being focused down, so is Sign, and Tempest begins to fall one by one.
I think this fight goes entirely down to what you said about the Molten Core perhaps being used too early. You know, I like the quick rotation. It was clearly very planned from the beginning by Tempest to go into that Molten Core, get a big Molten swing and get multiple stuns, or potentially get some extra damage. But the Siege Giant camp now has taken down the top keep, so that's extra lane pressure that Tempest is going to have to deal with throughout the rest of this game. They've got these long death timers right now to deal with as well. And there's no massive objective for L5 to take at this moment in time. Even taking their own boss isn't really an opportunity for them right now with SC dead. But they're just going to simply sit back and get 20. Now they've got a 20 advantage, they've got this keep advantage, and Tempest, yes, they're still on that curse point, but they're going to have to take a better fight than this if they're going to win this game. I feel like the best opportunity we've seen from them in these fights has really come down to the leyline seal potential that we saw actually in that first big fight that we had. But for the rest of the game, Duck's been using it mostly defensively, which is a bit worrisome. And now they're actually going to posture on this boss. They have their heroics, they have 20. Hyde sniffs this out and is actually looking for the pick on the Swoi here, and he's actually alone. He's looking for this. He's super hyper-aggressive, but they're going to turn this around now. They leave the boss, and Hyde, it looks like he's going to go down. He's got nothing to dash to now caught by this holy ground, and this is going to be a big pick here. He uses Palm as well, not that it matters. It's even with his death timer.
Very unfortunate for Hyde there, just getting a little bit too aggressive, thinking that he can potentially chase down the Lucio, and you should never ever get caught in that scenario, thinking you can possibly catch that guy, as he's a little bit too quick. Hyde dies 20-19, L5 looking for a boss. Duck was scouted out completely, but there is nothing that Tempest can do to even attempt to fight on this boss, and lucky for L5, the tribute has spawned nearby, one of the best spawns they could have had.
And now they can use this boss pressure to double boss, which will then lead potentially into that curse. To be honest, Trixer, when you look at the scenario here, if you take a snapshot of the game we're in right now, I can't imagine a world where Tempest can make a miracle play here to actually stop this boss while yet stopping the tribute and their own boss on red side. L5 is going to push with this boss first, as they don't need to immediately go to their opponent's boss. They're going to work on this keep wall. They've got a decent amount of poke here as well, and Tempest needs a miracle. They don't have 20 yet. They're very close. They do have Leyline. Palms back up. We're going to see the Molten Core come down. L5 needs to back off here briefly. Actually going to continue to push in. They're not afraid of that Molten Core whatsoever.
Yeah, the Molten Swing was used kind of early there. Modern Life missing out on it, so he's pushing aggressively with the boss to focus it down. We're going to have Tempest move in. They are not 20 yet. Sound Barrier popped for L5. We're going to have Zarya bring out the shield at the same time. Modern Life being focused down. The Sulfura Smash is going to connect, but Chojin has the perfect Zarya shield to stay alive there. Big leyline seal, but I don't think it's enough here, as SC is continuing to dance back and forth. He is getting low on health, though. Can they save him? No. SC does fall.
Yeah, he does indeed fall here. Sign actually will get out of the Storm, Earth, and Fire. Duck, can he get away? He does not get into the portal here. Hyde's going to fall as well. And look at all the damage that Nitrogen is doing. He's at full energy, and he himself will just simply right-click on whomever he wants. to win the fight and win the game. Tempest brings out a unique strategy here. Perhaps a G, something they've been hiding and waiting to use in the losers finals here. You know, on paper it looked like nothing to me, you know, and as we watched the game unfold, we saw some strengths with it, but L5 will take this game number 1 in fairly dominant fashion as perhaps as you saw just SC on camera there scratching his head, they might be wondering the same as many viewers at home wonder what exactly the plan was here for Tempest. You could see the unkillable Chens, you could see the pressure. Would this work perhaps against a lower level Korean team at HGC? Perhaps would this work against some of our teams in this tournament? Maybe. They saved it for the top tier team though in L5. You're trying to get a pick on SC. Best Vol in the world, most will say. His positioning is good. He's got Vault. He's got Zarya to protect him. He's got Lucio for speed boost to assist his positioning. And it just felt like the strategy fell completely flat.
Yeah, they definitely just wanted to focus down SESC, and it just went way longer than they intended. One thing that SESC did really well in those fights is when the portal would open, there would be a gap in the middle, and he would just work his way toward the middle of the portal, making it harder for them to dance around. And eventually, he would fall, but he got his damage in. He worked in a few Rain of Vengeances. He also made sure that the Modern Life, Ragnaros, had a hard time being fully sustained through. Because if Modern Life lives through that, has full health, and we have Vol actually fall, I see a world where he just keeps cleaving over and over with the aid of Chen and chasing down members. But it never broke out like that. Now Choujin will be the MVP of that match there. Those shields were pretty darn clutch.
They certainly were, not to mention, of course, some of his expulsion zones in that last fight where he had full energy and they were unable to finish him off despite getting the kill onto SC. The boss was working on the core. It was a desperate situation there for Tempest, but it didn't work out in the end. And I mean, when you see a game like that, on one hand, I feel like a lot of people be frustrated, disappointed. You know, this is losers finals. What is this? You know, feels Clown Fiesta-esque, right? It really does. But what I see when I see this from Tempest is, okay, they had a plan. They prepared this for a long time on this current patch, and they felt like this is the time we're going to pull this out on this map specifically. We don't want to use it against any of the Chinese teams. We don't want to use it when we face, you know, L5 the first round around. We want to use it here to try to get that spot in the grand finals. We've saved this cheese strat all the way. It didn't work, but it shows good prep going into a series like this one.
Yeah, again, my only criticism I get from that match in particular, and the Abathur that we saw before, is I just wish they would run split push a little bit more. The mines don't really seem to work out as much as you want. I know you want the map control, and you want to be able to have vision on your opponent, but Medivh already provided the vision on your opponent. You don't really need those mines to do so. If Abathur was able to get an advantage in terms of 4 opening up, I can just see that game being so different. I know there is the fear of Dahaka, and in the game before we had Abathur, there was a false set on the map, but would really love to see those locust-oriented type of builds to make it a tad bit easier for them to get advantages somewhere else.